I've received a number of comments and questions on YouTube and on Instagram about the Dutch ovens that I use for baking and cooking, particularly baking sourdough bread, but a little bit for cooking too. So I thought what I would do today is share with you the Dutch ovens that I use and give you some pros, cons, and ultimately which one I recommend buying for your kitchen. To kick things off though, I wanted to start with the one that you've probably seen the most because it lives on my stovetop, and that is the Cuisinart. So I got this in Home Goods. I will say you can get any of these products or comparable ones if this one in particular isn't available in the links in the description box below. Of course, I earn a commission if you do that. However, I do think that it's worth waiting, and you can find it at like Home Goods, TJ Maxx, any of your discount retailers for a better price. So I'm never going to be mad at you for bargain shopping. So the Cuisinart, and this one is a 7-quart cast iron, enameled cast iron Dutch oven. And what I like about this, sometimes if you go shopping at a place like Home Goods or TJ Maxx, when you find the enameled Dutch ovens, if you look inside, often the inside isn't enameled, which is a little bit, I think, misleading. This one, although stained, is enameled in the inside. So that is definitely a pro to start off with. But on top of that, this is also dishwasher, This is also dishwasher safe, oven safe, and broiler safe, making it a really good versatile tool for your kitchen. The other thing I really like about this is it is aesthetically pleasing. So it is a nice matte white. I've seen a lot of white Dutch ovens. I have another white one that I'll show you, but it's shiny. I love the matte look, and I really love the gold handle on it too. So the definitely pro is that it is aesthetically pleasing, and also it is affordable. In comparison to something like a Le Creuset or a Staub, this is about a third of the price of those. So that's a great option because not only is it pretty, but it's also affordable. This is also the largest Dutch oven that I have. So at 7 quarts, it's great for batch cooking. It's great for bone broth. It's great for making soups and stews or big pots of pasta. So I really like the size of this. But with that said, it also can be very heavy. If you have this full of, say, a stew and you're getting it out of the oven, especially for someone like me that has a double oven, if I'm getting it out of the bottom oven, it can be really heavy. So that is something to think about if that's an issue for you. Now the cons. So one thing about this Dutch oven that could be an issue is it's not easy to find. I looked around online, and like I said, there's some links for comparable Dutch ovens in the description box below, but I have not been able to find this particular Dutch oven since I found it at Home Goods about a year ago. There are Cuisinart Dutch ovens available online, but the colors are really limited. And to me, they're not as aesthetically pleasing as the matte white. So that is something to consider also. So maybe my biggest con for the Cuisinart 7-quart Dutch oven is also one of the pros. I love the gold handle. It looks beautiful, but these decorative gold handles are not oven safe for temperatures high enough to bake sourdough bread most of the time. So I bake my sourdough bread at 500 degrees and then I drop it to 475 degrees. This lid cannot go to 500 degrees. So this is not a good option for baking bread if you bake at high temperatures like I do. Another con, and this is like kind of not a big deal, I think this is to be expected, but the white enamel on the inside stains. This is a problem with any enameled cast iron Dutch oven that is white on the inside. So you'll see in a minute, the stove that I have has a black interior. Maybe it stains, but because it's black, you can't see. But with that said, the outside still looks great, it cooks great, so that's really a minor problem in my book. The next one I want to share with you is the Staub 5-quart enameled cast iron Dutch oven. So mine looks a little dirty. I will get to this in just a second. But this is the most expensive of the Dutch ovens that I have. And this would be most comparable to a Le Creuset, which I actually don't have a Le Creuset. I've never used one, so I can't tell you if this is better than the Le Creuset, but I can tell you that it is comparable. The Staub is cooktop and oven safe. I have not seen anywhere online that it's broiler safe like the Cuisinart is. So I'm not sure if you want to put yours in the broiler. I would just do so with discretion or just look around and see if you can find more information about that. Another pro about this is that it comes in a wide range of really beautiful colors that can match any home aesthetic, and they're really easy to find. I have seen Staub Dutch ovens and even bakeware at Home Goods and TJ Maxx a lot lately. You can also get them at Williams-Sonoma and Crate and Barrel all over the internet, so it's really easy to find these, where unlike the Cuisinart, which is a little bit more challenging to find colors that you might like. If you recall, I mentioned that the Cuisinart has white enamel on the inside, and I think Le Creuset does also, but the Staub has a black enameled interior. So this means that staining is not really an issue in the way it would be with other Dutch ovens that have white enamel on the inside. The other hallmark about a Staub Dutch oven is the lid. So the lids they're nice because they're heavy and they fit nice and tightly on top of the Dutch oven, but more than that, they have these self-basting spikes that you can see here. So these help retain moisture, which is really good for baking bread because it helps keep the steam in. So on your first bake of your sourdough bread, you get that steam that some people struggle to get. You'll see people put ice cubes and trays of water and stuff in their oven, but this lid will help with that. And then for things like soups and stews, it's really nice because it retains the moisture, so you don't have to worry about cooking it down quite as much. Another pro about this and the lid is that this lid is oven safe up to 500 degrees. So unlike the Cuisinart where I can't bake bread in it, I can actually bake bread in this and I'm totally fine with it going up to 500 degrees. Part of that is probably just the technology, but also this is not really a decorative handle. I have yet to find anything with a pretty gold decorative handle that can go up to 500 degrees. Now the cons, and this con is a really big one. I didn't want to lead with it because I just feel like it's best to lead with the pros first. If you notice, mine is really dirty. I don't know why, but every single time I cook with this, if I put it in the oven with nothing in it, or if I'm just baking bread, so if I'm preheating it and there's nothing in it, it comes out of the oven really stained. So I don't know what the deal is. This is what it looks like after 30 minutes of me trying to clean it with baking soda. And then I also just gave up and put it in the dishwasher and it won't come off. Let me tell you what I don't have time for in my life. I don't have time to spend 30 minutes scrubbing the outside of my Dutch oven to make it look nice. If this is something that doesn't bother you, it's a great option. For me, this is almost a deal breaker because I cannot fathom spending $300 on a Dutch oven that is constantly looking filthy. But with that said, I did contact the customer service department at Staub and they are sending me a free replacement. So I'll send this back and they'll send me a new one. So hopefully in the future, I can follow up and have better results. The other con about the Staub Dutch oven is it is very expensive. So if you are shopping on a budget or if you just don't want to spend that much money on a Dutch oven, this is maybe not the best choice. However, you might be able to find it for a better price at discount retailers, but they're still pretty expensive even there. Last but not least comes the large Dutch oven. So actually, this is sometimes sold as a dual skillet because you can take it apart. You have one skillet for the lid, and then you have another one for the bottom. So that's pretty cool and makes this really versatile. So that's the number one pro about the large Dutch oven with a handle is that you can use this as a skillet, which makes it extra affordable because not only is this the cheapest of all the options I've shown today, but you also technically get two pieces of cookware. If we're getting down to the nitty gritty, I think the Staub actually bakes bread a little bit better than the large Dutch oven, but I would not let that be the deciding factor between the two because the Lodge makes a really nice sourdough bread. And on top of that, because it is two skillets, not only can you bake bread in it, but you can also fry and sear your food or saute your food in these also. So it's a great option if you're looking for a bang for your buck and versatility. Also, the lid is safe up to 500 degrees. So the Staub and the Lodge are great for baking bread because the tops can go in at really high temperatures. The cons, there's not too many, to be honest with you, but because this is not enameled cast iron, you cannot boil in this, so this would not be a good option, of course, for making soups and stews and that sort of stuff. And cleaning can be a little bit of a pain. So technically cast iron can be nonstick if you have a really good seasoning, but you know, it took me quite some time to get a really good seasoning on my cast iron. And so if that's something that you're struggling with, or maybe you just don't have time to deal with it, that could be a problem because you do have to hand wash these. They cannot go in the dishwasher. Now, in terms of aesthetics, I actually think that cast iron looks really nice in a kitchen. It has sort of a country homemade feel to it. But if you are looking for something with some color or a different sort of aesthetic or vibe, they are not quite as aesthetically appealing for some tastes as the coated cast iron are, but they still look really nice. Now for this particular Lodge Dutch oven, I actually only bake bread in this. So I have a larger cast iron skillet that you've probably seen me use a lot, and I love that thing. Like, I love it with all my heart. It's ridiculous. And I feel like if I made anything on the stovetop on a different cast iron skillet, I'd be cheating on the one that I have. ridiculous. But I have only baked in this, but I can say from experience that Lodge cast iron is great as long as it's well seasoned. It is good for stovetop. It is good for frying, searing, sauteing, baking, roasting, you name it. So then you might be asking, okay, which Dutch oven do you recommend? And the answer is a little bit complicated, but first and foremost, I recommend that you get the Dutch oven that you can afford. Some of these things get really expensive, and just because they're expensive does not mean they're better than anything else. So if your budget is what's the deciding factor, get the one that you can afford. Go to Home Goods, go to TJ Maxx, HomeSense, those sorts of places, and find a Dutch oven that works for your budget. This one, the Cuisinart, was maybe the cheapest. Well, it's definitely the cheapest for the enameled cast iron that I have, and it works great. So definitely don't let, this pressure to have a super expensive high-end Dutch oven stop you from actually getting one that you can use and love. I think what's most important is that you decide, what do you really need your Dutch oven for? Do you need versatility, or do you want it to do one thing really well? So if you want versatility, I would probably say something like a Staub or a Le Creuset is maybe the better option, because this can do just about everything. And if you're looking for something that does most things well, but not everything, the Cuisinart's probably a good choice. I have found it helpful to have more than one Dutch oven for a number of reasons. One, because I haven't found one that's perfect in all areas yet. But two, sometimes I need to bake 2 loaves of bread at one time, or I have soup going on the stove and bread in the oven, or a stew in the top oven and bread in the bottom oven, or something like that. And that has kind of solved the problem of not being able to find one Dutch oven that does everything perfectly. If you have any questions or other Dutch oven recommendations, drop them in the comments below. And don't forget, there are links for these products and comparable ones in the description box below. Thank you so much for tuning in, where we elevate the everyday from scratch and at home, and I will see you again next time.